just fine. I'm gonna lower my massage table here. Get a little bit better.
Get comfortable, girl. Get comfortable.
Yeah. I'm gonna close one of these doors so we don't get some extra noise here. Okay. Is this better?
Look at that. Perfect.
Yay. I have a lot of ceiling like headroom, so I'm gonna try and figure this thing out here. I don't know if that works better or not.
You look amazing. And,
thank you. I can't tell. My picture is like, it's tiny.
I can see you. I can. I got you. You're good. You know, and the funny part, like whether it's technology or you know, all this crazy stuff going on, managing all this new technology, getting used to it. I always tell people that, you know, this isn't a Hollywood production, right? There's no somebody behind the screen going, cut, take one, take two.
Right.
It's more about sharing some valuable information, having a good time, making this world a better place. And I don't know, the older I get, the more I feel like I should be giving back. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh my goodness. You're the first person to actually verbalize what I've been trying to say for a long time. And that is, at some point when we feel like we've stabilized, like our business is stabilized, life is stabilized, we have a lot of things to be grateful for, is a perfect time to start giving back a little bit to those who need it so much more.
All right. So one of the questions that I don't know if you run into this, I run into this all the time, that sometimes like I have this heart, right? And Liliana, like you don't know me yet, but over time, as you get to know me, you'll realize that I say I'm a nice person. I like to give. It's unconditional. I don't expect things back. But in this world that we live in, it's such an untrusting world.
Yes.
That whenever you're trying to do something nice for somebody or give him a piece of advice or trying to help out, they're like, no, I'm not interested, or no, why would you want to do that? It's like, because the world is a good place if you, you know, if you look at it that way.
People are very suspicious of altruistic people. And I don't know where we went wrong. I wish there was an answer. And the first time somebody ever called me altruistic was actually, he's an ex-boyfriend now, but at the time, I thought he was the one. You know, for him to say to me, you're such an altruistic person. Like, I don't feel like I measure up. And it was like, you do the same things. Like you do exactly the same thing I do. And he felt really insecure, but at the same time, he felt really blessed that he was with somebody like me at the time, because the person he was with before that he divorced was completely the opposite. Was really, really selfish and just wanted everything for herself and all of his things for herself, and always had a motive. And so I could tell that it was such a shock for him to be around somebody who, you know, would help somebody out. And I don't get paid for a lot of the things that I do. I get paid in other ways that aren't monetary. And sometimes those are better than a dollar. Sometimes it's, you know, knowing that somebody feels like they are empowered, that they can do something that they maybe thought they couldn't do before, that they have somebody in their corner. That's worth to me more than my hourly rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's just how it is. It's that feeling that we get, because in the beginning, because I was very materialistic when I was younger. It's like, you know, of course I wanted the funny labels and the cars and all this stuff. But the older you get, you realize you want those things because they give you a feeling. Yes. Whether you're feeling important, or you feel appreciated, or you're feeling loved, or you're being admired, or whatever that feeling is that people we want. So it's not the things that we crave or need, it's that feeling.
Right.
Exactly. And that's where I think the beauty business is such a wonderful, fantastic industry to be in, because as you probably well know, within your career, you've changed so many lives. You've helped people rediscover their confidence, the beauty that they have, because so much is this face. right? This face that we see, this face that we instantly judge. And to me, why I am so passionate about this industry is just that belief that you're not giving a facial, you're ensuring confidence, you're helping this person get a job, get that relationship.
Absolutely.
Right, and live their best life.
Exactly. And I think that gets lost. A lot of people think we just, face wash, or that we just pluck eyebrows and things like that. It's like, no, it goes way beyond that. Anybody who has spent time with an esthetician and has received a service from somebody who really has passion about what he or she does will realize that it goes beyond just the service. It's the care and the compassion, which is, we don't find that right now. We're not seeing that. It's, people are yelling at each other and throwing people in the street and stomping on masks and burning things and just being nasty. And what happened to just being nice, being kind, and realizing what we do isn't just, it goes beyond superficial service. But I feel that after this pandemic has started to wind down a little bit, which could be, whenever it does, I think people will start to realize how much and I don't think they're doing it now. I think they'll realize later, if we backslide into another 6 weeks or something, whatever is in store for us, once we get out on the other side, people will start to take more appreciation for the things that we do. I don't think people are at that level right yet. I think, not quite there.
let's let people help people get to that business level.
Yes.
and get some of this information, because that's the focus of this show and this program that I'm trying to put together, is how can we get someone like yourself that's been experienced, that has been through the trenches, that has seen the ups and the downs, the highs, the lows, and everything in between to get that. So let's begin. Tell me a little bit about your business, the name of your business, how long you've been in business. Let's start from there.
Well, I started in 2010 as a result of having lost my career in advertising and marketing. So I was in advertising and marketing for 16 years. I started really young. I was about 17, 18 years old. When I was introduced into the field of commercial art. And by 19, I was already employed in one of the top design firms in San Francisco. That was a global firm. And I was exposed to all the global brands, Nike, Apple, BMW, Coastal Living, Levi's, you name it, big accounts, huge accounts. And I was at the forefront of seeing things actually being produced and actually being made. And by that, I meant I would create the prototype for something, or I would if this was a package for something, I actually was responsible for putting the label together and putting all the little letters and things like that, and just making
that's insane. So at that young age, you were working on these billion-dollar industries.
I was working on the Nike watch before it was the Nike watch, on the MacBook Pro before it was the MacBook Pro, on all the Levi's brands. So there were 3 L2 Levi's, silver tab and red tab. I worked on all of those before they hit the market. So Gymboree, which we, those of you with kids would remember, Gymboree clothing, I worked on that.
Absolutely.
Coastal Living was a great magazine, still is a great magazine, dedicated for living your best life on the coasts, whichever coast that is that they happen to feature. So I worked on the masthead before there was a masthead. I worked on so many different projects, all the different Apple projects. We worked on the Apple Watch before there was even an iPhone. And that just kind of got,
that's crazy.
It was pretty crazy. And I had some incredible experiences. And then that led to a very long, beautiful career, 16 years, until 2009 on my birthday. It was my 33rd birthday. I was asked to come into a conference room, and I saw my new supervisor, which I'd never had a supervisor before up until about 3 or 4 months prior to me having walked into this meeting, and the CFO. And the CEO, who I used to report to directly, was nowhere to be found. Basically, nobody who brought me in was anywhere in the building. And when I got into this meeting, I knew that was going to be my last day, but I wasn't quite prepared for it. And I just knew this doesn't look right. This configuration, there's something wrong about it. So I sat in the meeting and was basically called to my face obsolete. And I'm an intelligent person, but I will say that was one word I'd never heard anybody refer to me as obsolete.
So
And
just like that, without no
just like that.
warning, no heads up,
Nope,
just another day of
nothing.
coming into the office.
Exactly. And so you hear somebody basically tell you that you're not really worth keeping. And it hits you on an emotional level. It hit me in this, like the cellular level, that I felt completely worthless when I left this job that I had for 8 years. So half of my career was spent in this one particular office, and I was on the client side now. And I had created this position out of nothing. They didn't even have an advertising department. I came in, I was the ad department, and pretty much took everything to the next level. And as I'm sitting there just wondering, like, what the heck am I going to do? I only know one thing, and that's advertising. I don't have any other skills. At the time, web designers were kind of getting a lot more notice, and I didn't want to be behind a computer. And so I got home with my sad little cupcake, and I looked at it and I was like, this can't be it. Like, I know I'm better than this. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I have to come spend a couple of weeks with you and Mom, clear my head, because I have to start all over again. So that was October.
Like, and very briefly in that, like how did that make you feel? Like one minute you're employed, you're comfortable, you have this life, and
Yep.
from the next, right? Just like that. Meaning, what was going through your mind at that moment?
Panic. I was panicked. I literally had only been laid off one other time. And that was from the design firm where I did all those amazing things. And the person who let us go actually cried. He didn't want us to leave, but this was a complete 180. This was like, you're obsolete and you have till 5 p.m. to get all of your stuff out of here. So here are your boxes. And once you're out, don't come back. So it's complete opposite. And that left me feeling panicked because my safety net was gone. I was living paycheck to paycheck like many, many Americans. I didn't have a lot in savings, if anything at all. I had pretty reasonably priced rent in San Francisco, but everything else was, getting expensive. So I was starting to panic and wonder, what am I going to do? I don't have anything to support me at this point other than my parents. So I left San Francisco, spent almost 3 months in Arizona where my parents had retired. And I sat down with my dad. I knew that conversation was coming of like, all right, you're 33, you need to start getting your act together. So he sat down with me and he said, you don't have any savings. You're in your early 30s. You can do pretty much anything else you want to do. Do you want to go back to school? Do you not want to go back to school? Do you want to stay in advertising? Do you want to change careers?
That must have been a rough conversation, right?
God,
especially at that point, especially because your parents, right? When they talk to us, it's, how was that?
That was rough. I mean, I cried, I put up a fight, and two things came out of that conversation that were life changers. The first thing my dad says, resisting change is a sign of immaturity. If you accept and adapt, you start to grow, you become a more mature person. Which do you want to be? Do you want to be the immature person who cries and was like, oh, my life sucks, like I don't want to do anything, I want to change? Or do you want to be the one who says, I got to roll with the punches, I've been kicked down, but I got to get up, I got to start assessing what is new? So I said, well, I definitely don't want to be the one crying in the corner. So he said, you have to learn to adapt to change. Change is painful, change can suck, it can make you cry, it can frustrate you, it can be exhilarating, be very exciting, it can be scary, but you have to adapt to change. Absolutely. The other thing, and he's right, he was completely right. The other thing that came out of that conversation was a single question. And then all these times, like for 6, 7, 8 years, I've been talking to other estheticians in schools, mentoring. It all boils down to the one question that my dad asked that completely changed my life. He got very serious and he leaned on the kitchen counter. He just kind of leaned in and he says, what did you like doing as a child? What brought you joy as a child? And I sat there and I thought two things. One, I love working with paper. So like I used to make greeting cards when I was little. My mom never walked into a Hallmark store. She would just give me a stack of paper and some markers and be like, we need Christmas cards, we need birthday cards, we need happy anniversary cards.
So you had a lot of creativity.
Yes, a lot of I was the one who drew on the walls with a permanent marker right after the painters left. So I was, doing murals. So I said that was one thing. And then the second thing that just came right out of my mouth, and I felt like I had no control over what was coming out. I said, Dad, I like putting stuff on your face.
Yeah.
And he kind of tilted his head, and I will remember vividly for the rest of my life when he was like, really? And I said, yeah, I like putting the like avocado stuff on your face. I like fixing your eyebrows. He used to pay me like 5 cents for every nail that I would trim, pluck out the gray hairs. Sometimes he would have like one crazy one. He just wanted that one out. I would cut his eyebrows when he had like the crazy old man eyebrow, trim up his sideburns, trim his mustache. I did all of his grooming. From the age of 3, he taught me how to use scissors. And then from 6 years old onward, he showed me everything I needed to know about men's grooming so that I could just do it. And he thought, well, why not? I can pay my kid a couple bucks, and she won't cut me. And he taught me how to straight razor shave, taught me how to use clippers, like all of it. So I said, Dad, I really like doing that. And he said, can you make that into a career? I don't know. I don't know other than a barber and a hairstylist, I'm sure. I didn't even know what it is.
And you know what? That's, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's such an important question, just because here, don't get me wrong. We all have our passions and stuff like that, but can you make a career out of it?
Yes.
A lot of people, they're out there painting or doing this, and they're artists, which is a wonderful and noble profession, but they have that term starving artist for a reason, right? Musicians, because it's tough. So the fact that your dad asked, well, hey, you'd like to do this, that's great, but can you make a living out of it?
But can you make a living out of it? And I literally had no idea, because I'd never had a facial. I'd seen a dermatologist, but that was a completely different experience. Never seen an esthetician, didn't know what an esthetician was or did. And I said, I don't know, Dad, I need to ask somebody. So he said, who are the experts that you know who do this sort of thing? Find out who the experts are, call them up, see if you can get a service. We'll pay for it. Get your face done, get your eyebrows done, get your hair done. Go sit with a barber and find out what it is that they do. Go see all of these people and look for the successful ones, the ones who are book solid. Go to them first. They are your experts, and ask them, what did you do to get to this point? What's your initial investment? How hard was it? How long did it take you to build up your client book? Ask all the questions. And he helped me put together some questions. So the first person I went to, her name is Olivia, and she ended up being not only a friend, but a mentor, and also training me later. And I sat with her for a little bit and told her what the situation was. And she said, you would love aesthetics. You are right up there. You have the creativity, you have the drive, the determination. I predict that you will be able to start your business right out of school. And I thought, whoa, that seems really ambitious. But she said, no, I see it happening. I know it's going to happen. So I listened to her for a bit, and I did my research on schools, and I applied to the Cinta Veda Institute in San Francisco. And 51 weeks from the time I lost my job to the time I actually got my certificate, they called it, I guess, a bachelor's in osteology, but it really was a certificate in osteology. 51 weeks exactly.
Not even a year.
Not even a year. I went from walking out with like all my possessions in a bunch of boxes, loading up my Tacoma, and then crying all the way home, to holding up a certificate and sobbing on stage like, I got this. And I was the oldest student in the class at 34, like about to turn 34. I was older than the teacher. I think I was closest in age to the owner of the school. But I thought, if I could do this, what's stopping anybody else? My second career, older than everyone by almost 10 years. So the youngest, closest in age was about 9 years to me, 9.5 years. Everybody else was much younger. So I learned that it doesn't matter where you are in your life. When that opportunity strikes for you to make the change, be the person who can adapt to it and work with it. Because had I not chosen this route, I would be working for somebody else. And I guarantee you, I would be miserable. I would be stressed out. I'd probably not be working at this time. And I just wouldn't have found something that gives me joy literally every single day. Ever since I started as an esthetician, I had like one bad client, but no bad days in 10 years. And my 10th year will be on Saturday next year. I mean, next week.
Woo, woo,
Yeah.
woo.
10 years.
That is that
And no
that is
bad
so
days.
cool.
Yeah.
So as a little girl, you were into this beauty stuff ever since then, right? So it's
Yes.
like how some people have different callings, or they were doing different things as little girls, and they grow up and have these other careers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you know, you actually turned into the marketing, the advertising, but
Oh,
your calling, what you really wanted to do, even ever since a young girl, was to be in the beauty business, right?
I jokingly tell students in all of these, when I do like a speaking tour and things, I tell them I saved myself $48,000. And what that was my art school education totaled about $48,000 at the Academy of Art. And I did 3 years there, and I had transferred units. So every year when I do my branding, when I do my product line, when I do my own marketing, my merchandising, I look back to the 3 years that I spent at the Academy of Art, and I used all of that, plus the
Awesome.
other years, you know, where they actually paid me to do some work with the design firms that I worked for. All that experience really totals into everything that I do, my aesthetic and my brand. And so I like to say I save myself $48,000 every year, because each year is a new evolution. The brand is still the same, but the look might be a little bit different, and I'll refresh things as I go. And the concepts typically are the same. But every year I reinvent a little bit more of my brand and expand. And using everything that I learned, I don't have to pay somebody else to do it. I'm just now at the point where I'm profitable enough and I'm productive enough that I have to hire a design firm for the first time ever.
Awesome.
I was always my design firm, but the workload is such that I can hand it over to 2 people who I really trust. They're going to do all my photography and some of my branding. And I feel good about handing that over, because I can be now the creative director and say, I really want this as my vision, or I want these colors, I want this font, I want this overall feel. I know the terminology. And then I don't end up picking somebody who's not right for me, because I know the questions to ask, because I was asked those same questions when I was in the design world. So it really does make a difference to have a really strong background in something else that benefits your business, whether it's accounting or even a law degree, design, or even interior design, you name it. Any of these other disciplines and industries that you have experience with can absolutely benefit your career moving forward as an esthetician.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you think about it, running a business, any business, it's hard work, right? Like when you look at some of the stats, running a business, it's hard, it's stressful, especially in the beginning when you're setting the foundation, getting things going long hours. There's a saying that roughly within 5 to 10 years, 80% of small businesses fail. So why do it? You know, why start a business if it seems like everything is against you? You know, you started a business. Why did you do it?
Because we're crazy.
Hey, a little crazy goes a long way, right?
Yes, exactly. There's a joke that I heard in Paris on one of my trips that I thought was really funny, that it says, entrepreneur is French for crazy. And I was like, yes, that's me. I'm crazy. And what made me decide to go solo straight out of school, and I marketed myself while I was in school to get those clients. I think the first thing that I said to anybody who asked me that question was, I'm really tired of saying yes to somebody else and giving me a no. And I may have phrased it a little bit differently, but I was tired of being the no, and the no way, the no how, any of it. And I really wanted to be the yes, and say, yes, I can accomplish that. Yes, I have the money for this. Yes, I can deliver whatever promise. Yes, I can design this package for my client. I was tired of the negatives, and I was tired of someone else being in charge. But I say things differently now. I say, I don't work for myself. So if somebody says, oh, you work for yourself, I say, no, I work for my client.
Yes.
I absolutely work for my client. I don't work for myself, because if I did that, then I would just have a hobby. So for me, this is not a hobby. All of this behind me and in front of me is not a hobby. This is passion. This is life's work. This is what's going to take me into retirement. I don't plan on changing careers. I plan on adding to what I'm already doing, but my client is my work. So I don't see this as something that I just do for the fun of it. This is literally like I put everything into it, and the passion for it is what made me want to do this completely by myself, and for other people. So I feel like by saying, you know, I work for the client, that I may be a solo entrepreneur, meaning that I don't have anybody else in the treatment room other than the client and myself. I don't have other people to answer to, like I don't have a board of directors, or I don't have a financier. I don't have somebody else trying to call the shots like a typical boss. That really, I may make the decisions, but ultimately it's for the client because they're my boss, if that makes sense.
And that's the way it is, because they're the ones that are paying you to be in business. And talking about that, when you first started your business in the beginning, I think a lot of business is a little bit rough in some aspects. What were some of the challenges, hardships you faced in the beginning of putting your business together?
You know, there's a couple challenges that will continuously go into like this decade and the next decade. And one of them is financial, like discipline. I became more disciplined when I had less money. So the first 3 years where I was in debt, I was living basically a life of austerity, meaning my mother was really good at this because she drilled it into me. She said, don't buy those extra earrings. Don't buy that extra whatever. You don't need those other shoes. You already have 2.
I think mamas and dads are the initial financial advisors, right?
Yeah. My dad was the angel investor. So he would say, like, you can buy yourself, you know, another shirt because that'll be a uniform. And then he would say things like, it's okay, treat yourself a little nice, have a nice steak dinner, have a glass of wine and enjoy it. So he was more head in the clouds. My mom was more feet on the ground. So the balance of the two of them influencing me on how to prepare myself for what was happening was ideal. But I would say financial discipline was the hardest and will continue to be. I'm so much better now, but it is a constant struggle of like, okay, I really want, you know, steak, but I probably should have a cup of noodles, you know, or something. But
it's that balance, right? Because
that balance, yes.
That money, especially being in business for yourself, the money comes in, but sometimes just like a snap, whether it's COVID or whatever's going on, right? The hard part about being in business is we almost do live day by day. Today we have clients, tomorrow something can happen. It could be a huge snowstorm, everything's shut down, and now you have 0 clients.
Right. Yes. So like here, you know, COVID-19, I was fortunate enough to work pretty much the majority of the time because I accept certain medical clients and conditions like lymphatic drainage and oncology. Thankfully, I had this extra certification aside from my aesthetics license. So another challenge to address that question was keeping up with the Joneses. Like, what do I do so that I don't fall behind, so that I don't appear like all I'm doing is just, you know, bridal beauty or just something superficial. I wanted something that would put me at the top of the list, something that I could achieve within about 4 to 6 months, have a return on investment that was really high and very quick. And then literally think like a business, like how is this going to impact my business? Am I going to see more clients come in from this? So
real quick, like for a lot of people that don't know, what is oncology? What is this oncology training that you took? Very briefly.
So the oncology training for skincare, I received through Oncology Training International, which a lot of people already know. So Morag Curran is I call her the godmother of oncology aesthetics. So it is the skincare treatment for cancer patients, but you also learn for immunocompromised. So lupus, diabetes, autoimmune disease, so on and so forth. And this oncology training prepares you to do modified treatments for cancer patients during and after their anti-cancer treatment. So if they're on chemo radiation or if they're on alternative medicine, how to modify your treatment so that it's safe and effective. We learn different programs We learn everything about the different drug interactions, how to change the service so that they're safe throughout the whole time, what products to use on them, what ingredients to look for. So that put me in a whole different category. So by year 4, I was starting to see a return on my investment pretty quickly and starting to see me break even, which I hadn't for those first 3 years. So I had the financial discipline that was changing. I had to keep up with the Joneses and come up with new ways to be able to be a more effective and unique esthetician. So I wasn't just like everyone else. And that's my personality. I am not satisfied being just like everybody else. So I needed to stand out. And I'd say the third thing to answer that question would probably be the most difficult, was just keeping the emotional aspect of like, I'm struggling, but I'm doing well at the same time, to not affect my clients in the treatment room. So I had to be poker faced a lot and be professional, but I am an emotional person and I love to connect. People use the word empath. I'm not a real big fan of that label, but I do feel things at what feels like a much more intense level. So absorbing that energy and protecting myself was really difficult for those first 3 years, about into my 4th year. By year 4, 5, and 6, when I started to see the profits come in and like triple from year 3 to year 4, 5, 6, 7, the austerity period never really changed. I still have a little, I still love to live, but at the same time, I'm a little smarter than I was the year before about how I spend my money. I still take advanced classes. Now I teach them. So that's a really great benefit. If you're really good at what you do and others seek information from you, why not start teaching? I do not believe in that phrase, those who can't teach. Never believed in it, because you have to be able to execute to be able to show somebody how to do it. So I believe some of the best teachers are some of the top estheticians who just know the best way to explain something and demonstrate and inspire. And I hope to aspire to that at some point, where somebody will say, Liliana is the best teacher I've ever had, and I've taken, 15 different teachers, and I feel like I get the most out of her. I'd love to be able to hear that from any of my students.
That sounds wonderful, right? I mean,
it is pretty wonderful. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. If you had not taken the oncology training, how much more would have COVID affected you? Meaning how did it's, because it sounds like that helped you quite a bit to stay open, because you were differentiated, right? I mean, to me, that's huge. When people diversify their portfolio, I guess you could say, in terms of your skill sets, right? When everybody, and I think that's why COVID really hit people hard. It was kind of like a smack saying, don't get comfortable in this, because what happens if you just keep doing one thing, like for example, there's a lot of salons, like I'm up here in Petaluma in Sonoma, right? Just across the bridge from you.
Right.
And a lot of the salons were just heavily affected, and not because pre-COVID they weren't doing well. They were doing super well, but they were so comfortable, doing the hair, doing the lashes, doing the brows, that that's all they did. And once something hit, they weren't good at retail. They weren't good at online. They weren't, like, for example, now you're educating. They weren't educating. So you take out, they're sitting on one leg. You take out that one leg, they got nothing. But someone like yourself, you have one, you got the oncology, you got the education, you got 3, 4, 5 different legs under the table. Someone knocks off one, you're still balanced.
I can still stand. Yes, that is I'm so glad that you said everything that you said. I have the oncology training. I teach for Hale and Hush Skincare, which is one of the oncology lines that we study. So I could teach while I was in quarantine, because everything's on Zoom now.
Yes.
So I still teach, and more so now than ever before. I had the oncology, so the few cancer patients who did need to see me could see me. I have the lymphatic drainage from Dr. Votter, so that certification, beautiful, kept me busy. I may have only seen 1 or 2 clients a day, almost every day, but that would end up being like $300 to $350, $400 in 2-3 hours. That otherwise, if I didn't have that, that's money I'm not making. I had retail. I pivoted retail in 3 weeks. I said, I need to be able to have products. So I came up with a COVID calm box. Like within 3 weeks, I expedited everything.
Everyone needed calm. Everyone needed calm.
I had sage in there. I had masks, eye treatments, aloe gloves. I had the whole bit. And I've had people actually emulate the box, which is really funny that they want to do the same thing. I started doing some wholesale, some cryo cubes. So I had these little metal ice cubes that I use for treatments. Started wholesaling those like immediately. That's like $170 for a wholesale batch, which is huge money, considering that even though my cost was a little bit high, that's money I'm not seeing if I wasn't doing that.
Yep.
I extended my skincare line, outsold all my other lines combined. My own skincare line, the first 3 months of the pandemic, I was $4,000 over my goal each month.
Wow.
And I was looking at my numbers. This can't be right. This just can't be right. And I'm looking through and like, oh my God, it really is right. So yay. So
I'm
I still
excited
hold
for
on.
you. Oh my God.
I'm excited
I'm getting
too,
pumped
because
over here.
it hasn't ended. And actually it gave birth to a whole professional line. So what I had for 2023, I expedited into 3 weeks, where I had to custom formulate masks. I have what was 1 mask ended up being, now I have 8. So I have 4 exfoliants and 4 clay masks that I sourced from France, from all over the place. And so I would get all the ingredients. I did all my formulas, tested them on myself, mixed them up, bottled them, did everything I needed to do, and started selling those professional kits to other estheticians, and then have a retail kit, started selling those to other people. And then I had enough time to formulate a cleanser, so I had a cleanser made. And then I found a tool. I was like, oh, I want this tool. So because Clairsonics going out of business, I needed to have something to replace that, and at a better price point. Boom, I had like my own tool, gua sha tools. I did an oil. And before I knew it, I was like, wow, I have stuff to keep me afloat. And even if I only saw 5 clients a week, my retail sales were 4,000 or more over my limit. And I was making, at my busiest, 10,000 a month easily. Like I wasn't even working, and I was making between 10 and 12,000 a month. Then pandemic strikes and there's nothing. So for 3 weeks I cried a lot. And after the 3rd week and 2 days, I said, all right, I have to get to work, because we don't know what's going on. And we were supposed to be, out of this timeout in May, and then June, and then July, and there's no sign. And so I acted quickly, because if you don't have all these different types of revenue, if you don't have the stream of revenue that will help you when, like you said, one leg gets knocked out, you are dead in the water. So I had the services, I had the retail, I had the custom formulations, I had the professional wholesale goods, I had mentoring, I had teaching. And then God knows what else like I came up with.
You're running out of fingers there, Liliana. You're you got so much going on.
But they're all related. So like,
absolutely.
I didn't turn around, no disrespect to anybody who will hear this and think that I'm shooting you down, because this is not what I'm saying. But I didn't turn around and say, well, my spa is about to close or on the verge of closure. I'm going to turn around and be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Which, if you can do that, fantastic. Sell the hell out of all the houses that you can. But I said, my focus, my passion is aesthetics. So if I'm going to keep this career going, I need to stick with what makes sense. And that is helping the esthetician, helping the professional, and helping myself. So I decided, no, it doesn't make sense for me personally to turn around and say, I'm going to sell cars or widgets or, make wigs or something else that's not related to my passion. And I have multiple passions, but the biggest source of income is aesthetics to me. And I wasn't going to be disrespectful to my license and just shelve it and go do something else completely different.
And not only that, Liliana, but it's enough, right? I mean, when you look at all the things that you pointed out, all the options, and an octopus doesn't have that many arms. So whether it's the education, right, the retail, the brands, the wholesaling, all this can be done by every, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're amazing, but it's not like, you're wearing a cape and you're flying, meaning whatever you can do, anybody else can do. It's available.
Else can do. Yes.
Right. It's available. These talents, these skills that you picked up, but you had a little bit more foresight in saying, okay, let me do this. No one knew COVID was going to hit. However, because, as a smart businesswoman, you're like, hey, I can do these and I can make more money, but based on what I'm already doing.
Right.
Why not collect?
I attribute it to 4 letters. triple
It's not a
P's
bad.
and a
It's not a
T.
bad four-letter word, is it?
It's a
No,
very good
yeah.
bunch of letters.
All right.
The first is quality. I don't offer anything less than the best quality that I can possibly afford. So when a person comes to see me, if I'm offering them a cup of my own tea, which you can see, let's see, it's right there. That dark green label and that light label, those are my teas. So if I'm going to offer somebody a cup of tea, it's the best damn tea that I can possibly source with my own money. So the first thing I had to do when I was pivoting in those 3 weeks was think of the 4 things that I cannot compromise, will not change. These are steadfast. These are going to be on my headstone when I pass away. She believed in quality is going to be the first thing. So quality, number 1. The second is passion. If I'm not passionate about using it myself or giving it to somebody else, it does go nowhere. So if I'm giving somebody a recommendation for whatever skincare product I have to be passionate about it, and it has to have quality. The third was perseverance. No matter how bad it got, I was going to get through to the other side. I don't care if I was missing a limb, or in this case, like my leg, I tore 2 ligaments in my leg, in my foot, and I still had to move my spa. Like after the first day of moving in, I tore it, and thank God the movers came when they did, because I couldn't have done all of this on my own. I knew I was going to persevere and get to that other side, no matter what it took. I had that in mind, that goal, that focus. I'm going to survive. And then the last was persistence. I hounded my vendors. What can you do for me? Can you give me a cash discount? Can I get 10% off if I bring in another referral? Can you find a better price? Can you find me a better color? Can you find me no minimum? Can you find me a bigger minimum? Can you eat the shipping? Because, where's the shipping money going to come from? I just hounded whoever I could. I called in favors. I asked whoever I possibly could. I asked vendors, do you have any product that has gone unsold that you can give me at a discount? And that's how my cleanser came about.
That's amazing.
I had an idea, and I said, I want something that smells like October. And I found something that actually smells like pumpkin spice. And I said, but I don't want to pay that price. And I don't want to pay that price because I feel like I don't want it to feel foo-foo to somebody, but I really want like a super good quality. Can you give me a better bottle? Can you eat the cost of shipping? And I, negotiated as much as I could. And there was a formula that I really liked out of all the 8 formulas that I tried. And I said, I like this one, but it needs tweaks, but I can't pay you for a custom formulation. Can you tweak it and expedite it and eat the shipping and do this, that, and the other? I'll do a cash discount if you can honor it, and I'll send you a new client. And
Liliana, here, let me ask you a question, right? Because what you just said right now is just like magic.
It is magic. It is magic.
It's a difference between, you are a businesswoman, right? And I think a lot of people in this industry, they're amateur business women, because like what you just talked about, that's hardcore business deals. That's boardroom negotiation. What can you do for me? So in your rough opinion, rough guesstimate, how much would you say you were able to save based on your negotiation? Rough ballpark number, rough.
I can tell you with my product, in respect to my product line, my 9 products that I have, half of which are custom, the other half are semi. I should have paid probably close to, like, with testing and everything, testing, labeling, if I were to pay somebody else, bottling, all of the like tamper stuff, all of the stuff, the ingredients, everything. Had I not utilized what I did to get those products the way I got them, I think our best calculation was somewhere in the $900,000 range.
Holy poops.
And I paid, I call it the $1 million baby, because it could have cost me $1 million to get all of this together. There's 9 products. I started with 8, like right away. And the cleanser is the newest one that just started coming out just recently. But if I wanted custom formulation, custom everything, testing, bottling, because they came from out of the country. So import taxes and whatnot, would have cost me in the $900,000 range. And I paid about as much.
Wait, drum roll.
My Toyota Tacoma was $17,756. I paid like $5,000 more than my Toyota Tacoma.
Wow.
Just a little bit more than that. So like 23,000 is what I paid to get my first batch of products tested, made, all of it labeled, bottled, efficacy testing, the tamper resistant, all of the stuff that needed to be done, the labeling, even all of the testers to get it right.
Yes.
So about, I would say with all of the shipping included, everything. So let's just call it 25,000 from top to bottom with all the taxes and shipping and extras and bubble wrap even. But I would have probably paid close to like 900,000 on the low end of 900,000 for the same line.
So a little negotiation in terms of business can save $500,000 plus. Right?
I literally went to one of the formulations. So I have 3 different labs. Not all products are from the same lab, but I went to one lab in particular, and I asked, you know, I want to start something, but I don't want to do white label. I don't want to do private label. I want something that's a little bit more custom. If I send you the products, can you tell me what we can do? So they were like, oh, this one's going to be, you know, 250,000 because it's got this, that, and the other. This one's going to be about 50,000 and blah, blah, blah. I was like, whoa, that's not going to happen. But I didn't want to do private label. I was like, just don't want to do it. And so I approached one of the labs and I said, do you have any specials? Like, really, do you have any specials for a solo? I just want a really good.
If you don't ask, you don't get, right? This ain't science here. This ain't rocket science. You ask, hey, what can you do for me? What's a special going on? Yes.
Exactly. And that was an old saying that my grandmother used to say in Spanish. And it was basically, if you don't ask, you can't get fed. So
that's it. Closed mouth, don't get fed. Absolutely. Grandma, yes.
Grandma was right. And so I literally said, do you have any specials, like anything on sale? And the account manager says, wait a minute, I have something I think you might be interested in. And she put me on hold for I don't know how long. I mean, it was a long time. I probably could have like dried my hair and restyled it by the time she got back. And she says, we have 3 of the serums, 3 of the 5 serums that you introduced to us. We have something really similar with a couple of tweaks, but the formulas are going to have to be limited edition. We get 85 gallons of each of these 3 serums that are the closest match possible to the 3 out of the 5 that you want done. The only caveat is you got to pay a little bit more upfront. And once those 85 gallons are done, they're done. You either pay for the complete reformulation or you start from scratch, which of course will end up costing me more money. A dermatologist had created 3 formulas that were like almost exactly what I was looking for in the serum line that I wanted to produce. And he had bailed, just like didn't pay his bill, disappeared. He had put down his deposit and then shut down all of his facilities. Now this was pre-COVID. This was last year. Right. And I said, well, are they a match? Like, what else do I have to pay for? So it was one other round of testing for the bottle, so that to make sure they were light proof and whatnot, and the compatibility of the ingredients. And so that cost me a little bit, but it wasn't a huge deal. And I ended up with 3 dermatologist tested, formulated, custom formulated serums that otherwise I would have had to fork out like, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars for all of them. And just because I asked you, have anything on sale?
So wait a minute. Let's get straight. So, you know, you're out there hustling and grinding, you're working, you're asking questions, favors, negotiating, and you get a little bit of luck on your side. You know, Liliana, there's a saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes.
It's not, the saying does not go, the more I sit at home, the luckier I get. The more I pray and do nothing, the luckier I get. No, you pray, you work, you ask, and that lady luck is pops up, right?
Because there was no way I had that kind of money. I had saved up maybe about 10,000 on my own. I took out a small loan, a small capital loan. And then I had other investors who were mostly friends and family who would buy product and want to say like, hey, I'll buy extra of whatever else you have so that you can have profit to put towards your line. And so by the time I had the like 18 or 19,000, I could at least put that down. And then every time, cash tips, any kind of money that I found on the street, 20 bucks in a, purse or something from last season, I would put that in a jar and start saving. At the same time, I was saving for another trip to Paris, because that's where I go. That's my happy place. And a trip to Portugal and London. So I was saving for 3 different trips, all within 2 years of each other, and a product line, and still getting my business going. So my goal was literally every dollar that came in, once I paid the essentials and the rent and took all of that, my net profit went to all the things that I needed to save for. So I would say about 80 to 90% of my profits went towards another Paris trip, Portugal, London, and my skincare line. So awesome. I went through that austerity period again where I couldn't enjoy the fun, fancy things that I wanted. But when I worked really hard, I could see the results of that. Then I could treat myself to like a nice dinner with, a glass of wine or a steak or something. But that was pretty much how I had to save within about a year. So I gave myself a year to try and earn as much money as possible. And I set a goal of 20,000 and I hit the 24,000 mark, and then used whatever didn't go into the skincare line towards the Paris trip, towards London, and towards Portugal. And so I was able to do all of that, which the trips alone were probably about $12,000 or so. So I still saved money and still had a great time. Like at every 6 months, I'd go to find a new place. A birthday was always in a different country, or Paris if I didn't find a country I wanted to visit. And then give myself the trip of going to London, which I'd never done before.
And you got to treat yourself, right? I mean, you got to treat yourself in the process. So very quickly, if Liliana, if you had a time machine, right? And you could go back in time to when you first started your business, and you can talk to yourself at that point, because that's where a lot of the gals that this is going to be applying to are solo estheticians that are just starting off, or they're struggling, they don't know. And if you can go back and talk to yourself at that period of time, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself and all the other estheticians, solo estheticians out there that are listening?
There's 3 things I would say. The first is, do not let other people's opinions of what you can and cannot do affect your decision making. They can have all the opinions they want. I had family members who thought I was crazy. I had family members who said I would fail. I had friends who deserted me in my first week of school, who said, well, you're just not going to have time for me anymore, and left me. I had relationships that just couldn't handle me working on weekends, that were just like, Saturday is supposed to be date night. Well, like, hey, honey, I'm sorry, I'm still working. It's 9 o'clock at night so that I can buy you dinner because you're not working hard enough. So I would say any of that negative noise, put it out of your mind. You know what you're fully capable of, and you need to respect that. And if you aren't sure, you need to go out and find out and try it. The best way I found that out was by traveling. You can do so much when you travel. You can learn a new language, you can learn a new route, you can communicate in a totally different way, be adventurous, try new food. You can learn so much about yourself if you travel. So kind of in addition to that, travel, learn about yourself, don't listen to the naysayers, literally know what you were capable of doing and then execute. The second thing I would have said to myself was, find a way to take as much of the business building courses that are available to you. And my dad always said I had a very natural business acumen growing up, that I was a hustler. I would sell things and buy things, and like I was a stock trader when I was little. I was just always dealing and dealing, everything for a penny. I would do something, at least always do something for a penny. And so if I had the access to like a business coach or a mentor in my weakest areas, so not an esthetician mentor type thing, but somebody in finance, somebody in legal, somebody in organization, anything where I felt like I was stuck or not necessarily really good at, find the mentors in those weaker areas who will help you get all of your skill set and all of your levels up. Because had I not found the right mentors, I would be still struggling right now. I don't even think I'd be in my 10th year. So that was important for me to find. I found them a little bit later than I would have liked, but definitely in the areas where you're struggling the most. And then the third thing I would probably tell myself is to not be so hard on myself when I didn't reach certain goals. And I'm a super goal-oriented person. Those little trophies behind me, so those two are like for the goals that I hit. I hit 100K, or was 100K club in 2017, and then the 140K club in 2018. And then last year I hit the 115, even though it was a really bad year. My dad had passed away, so the business was like just all over the place. And even in this pandemic, I'll still hit 100K, minus like the unemployment and the EIDL and all of that. I literally felt like I could achieve anything if I just focused. Like, it's just so simple. There's no secret weapon other than just like see the goal, visualize it, and do it. And it's okay if you fail. It's okay if you fall short. It's okay if you get derailed and don't fully come back. As long as you are respectful of yourself, and just know we are human. We do have limitations that may be physical or that may transcend the physical world. Our emotional state and our mental state is 90% of what happens. So if you are down on yourself, if you are consistently like, oh, I just can't do it, or you're just really negative, you won't achieve anything. But even if you are like, well, I'll give it a shot, it's better than nothing. You know, I have always been the type who would meet or exceed other people's expectations of myself, but I would never quite feel like I did it. So when I finally did reach a goal and then I would go over, it was like, okay, there's a reason to celebrate, because everyone thought I'd hit the 100K club at 10 years, but I did it in 2017. And then I went over, and then I was like 120, and then 140 and 115, and nobody thought that I could do that. And if they did say that I would, it was like, yeah, but she won't do it this year. You know, her dad died, or she won't do it this year because it's been a really hard pandemic year, or she won't do it this year because everything's online and she doesn't like web. But surprise, lo and behold, I was able to do it because I set that goal. But even if I'm like short, what if by the end of the year, I'm like, oh, my projections were off and I only hit 89,000. I'm not going to jump off a bridge for it. I'm going to say like, well, at least I hit 89,000. Yay. You know,
and that's awesome.
And that's awesome. Yeah. And
Liliana, you know, very briefly, you know, one thing I heard before that the best revenge is massive success.
Yes.
So to all these naysayers, these haters, these doubters, when you're able to pull through and be consistent with it, that's awesome.
I have, unfortunately, I have amassed a handful of haters who they're the ones who watch. You know, they'll scroll and they'll watch.
Peekaboos.
See the peekaboos, and you know they're there, and you know they have something to say, and it's okay, because you know you're not going to live, especially in this industry, you're always watched. And if you can't always have your best face forward. Some days you fall on your face. It happens. And some days you say the wrong thing, and sometimes you make a mistake, and people will want to see that, unfortunately. And that's kind of the culture here in the United States. It's so different elsewhere. And traveling allows you to see other perspectives, and you come back refreshed and you start treating people differently because you have a new perspective on life. And I feel like when I got back from Paris that I realized, yeah, a lot of people do watch to see what I'm doing. And I don't really pay attention to that until it's brought up to my attention. Then I say, well, I hope they learn something from it. Because, you know, what else am I going to say? I just hope they learn something from it. And if they didn't, well, that's on them. It's not on me. It's not my job to tell somebody how they should think and what they should get out of it. It's really up to that person. So I stopped being hard on myself.
And you're absolutely right, because someone like you that teaches, that you spend your time, you invest it, right? Until you have enough hate, until you have some haters, you really haven't succeeded. that's just how it goes. You know, you've started tasting success when the haters start racking up.
Exactly.
And that, you know, so I really wanted to thank you so much for spending your time. I mean, I had a blast with you. I wish we could go on for hours. If I didn't have this next one, I'd just sit here and just talk with you, because you are so inspirational.
We can do a part 2, because I'll tell you, in a couple of weeks, there'll be something new that is going to come down the pipeline that I'm excited about, that we can probably use for more discussion.
And this is going to be the breaking news is going to be right here.
Right?
So awesome. So thank you so much for that. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for your wisdom, your time, your sharing, and just the tips that you shared today. I promise you, people will watch this, other gals will watch this, estheticians will watch this, and they're like, you know what, I need to do that. They'll work on their business skills, they'll work on their negotiation, because now they
Absolutely.
know how much they can benefit from it.
Oh yeah, my mentor, I have many mentors, but the one who passed away, who was closest to me, he said, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that is, I live for that. And I think everybody who believes in that can absolutely succeed in whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. You really, it's like 90% mental is really what it is. And so hopefully the estheticians and other professionals who hear that understand, if they believe it, they can achieve it. There's no shortcut, but that's where it all starts, is just really believing that you can get to that point.
I believe. Liliana, thank you so much, and I'll hit
Thank
you up
you.
later. We'll catch up, okay?
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye.
Bye.